I was on the bench in the changing room, sitting there before a rugby trial, trembling. Go on, can any of you relate? Go back to being in a trial. Maybe you joined a new club, and you're there. You're in the moment, in the changing room, just before you step out onto the court or onto the pitch. Well, here I was, sitting on the bench in the changing room. They'd folded my kit nicely next to me. You had to put it on, so here I was. I put on the top, bit baggy. I never filled it out. Pulled on the shorts. I had the thought everyone has. I wonder if I got to keep these. Do I got to put them in my bag after? Then I pulled out the socks. And tell you what, I had the most embarrassing moment ever. You've just rocked up to a trial, and the one thing happens you don't want to happen. You don't want to look like a fool in front of everyone else, okay? Pulled out my socks. I thought I had 2 left socks. There was an L on each one. So I put my hand up. Sir, you've given me 2 left socks. No, mate, they're just larges. They're just larges, you're fine. Shocker. Here I am, already looking like a fool. Tell you what, I didn't even get picked. Probably because I called him sir. First mistake, don't call him sir. Don't suck up. But then here I am. I take the socks out, pull them up. Onto my left foot, up it comes. Get the next one on my right leg. By the time I pull it on my right leg, my left one's fallen down. So I go pull up my left one, my right one's fallen down. Now, if you didn't see me walking up, I've got the least family tradition of having tiny calves. Now, you might not be able to see them. Exactly, they don't exist. So here I was in the changing room, socks down at my feet. And you won't believe, this is genuine, you won't believe what happens next. I look to my left. I'm like, okay, all I need some tape to hold my socks up. So I look to my left. Hey, mate, have you got any sock tape? And I stop mid-sentence. Here he is, socks in his hands. I honestly couldn't believe it. His calves were so big that he couldn't even get his socks over his calves. Literally, here I am, chicken legs, tiny calf, and he can't get his socks over his calves. In the moment, I'll tell you what, I felt so insecure, so unsettled. And like that, the comparison game started. I was like, oh, what happens if everyone else's calf's the size of his? I've got no chance in the trial. Oh, how do I match up compared to them? Oh, crikey, am I really out of my depth here? And hey, as you go to first sport tomorrow, I imagine some of you might feel similar. The comparison game might start. You get the ball out, you get the stick out. Oh, how on earth do I compare? Oh, what are their sporting credentials? Oh, their quality, look at their school stash. Oh, I think they might be playing academy. Oh, how do I match up? You see, the comparison game, it's constant. We all do it, don't we? Well, you see, this week, as we examine the evidence of the Bible, as we examine these claims, and dare I say truths, these can really transform how you view yourself and your sport. Do you see, knowing the evidence in this Bible, you come to realize that you are deeply loved by a God, and it means that comparison game can just go out the window, and it is no longer relevant. You see, growing up, as I sat on that bench in that changing room, I wish I'd known these truths myself. I was constantly trying to prove myself, impress my family, prove myself to my friends, to my teammates, and it was never quite enough. It was exhausting. Exhausting. And maybe you sit here tonight and you feel similar. You've got to prove yourself. Well, hey, come with me and let's dive into the claims of Jesus this week. You see, I thought so much of myself that at one point, I even tried to prove that I was the fastest man in the world. Ridiculous, outrageous claim. But going, here's my evidence. Picture 1, school sports day, relay. I know some don't think it looks like me. The hair was quality. But that is me. I bet some of those facials might be you guys tomorrow on First Sport. But here I am. Evidence 1, school sports day, gassing it. Evidence 2, stopwatch, 9.25 seconds. Now, I don't know about you. The world record is supposedly for the 100 meters 9.58. Make your own judgment. I'm just saying I'm pretty quick. But tell you what, the evidence, let's be honest, it's pretty unconvincing, isn't it? Tell you what, in the photo before, I'd actually cropped out the person who was in front of me, sacked them off. Here, stopwatch, I actually sat at my desk, time 9.25 seconds. I've made an enormous claim, claiming to be the fastest man in the world, and yet my evidence is weak. Do you see, massive claims demand massive evidence. You see, people say Michael Phelps. They say he is the greatest swimmer of all times. Massive claim. Evidence, 23 Olympic gold medals. I don't think my neck would be able to cope with that many. Serena Williams, greatest female singles tennis player of all time. Massive claim. 23 Grand Slams. England, the worst penalty takers in the history of the Euros. Massive claim. And true. They've missed 4, more penalty shootouts than anyone else. Now, sorry, I appreciate it as a sore point. So sorry to bring it home again, if you'll excuse the pun. But it's clear, isn't it? It's clear, isn't it? Massive claims demand massive evidence. And this week, we're going to look at even bigger claims. And here it is, page 62. Open it up with me. Go on. You just open up with Jen. Open it up. And look down at the little 30 and 31 with me. This is what it says. It says, Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. What's John saying? That Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you have life. It's an enormous claim, isn't it? It's massive. You can have life in his name. And it's made by a man called John. John, he wrote this book right here. He was a disciple of Jesus. He will have seen Jesus live on earth. He will have seen him perform miracles. He will have seen him hung on a cross, nailed to it. He will have seen the risen Jesus, his resurrection, him come back to life. He will have encountered him. And what does he decide to do? Write it all in a book. Right here, and you've got it in your hands. And this is exactly what we're going to be examining this week. The massive claims about Jesus that require massive evidence. And you see, in that verse you read, John says, look, there is other evidence. There's other evidence for Jesus that isn't written in this book. I read that. I was like, why? Why wouldn't you include the evidence, all of it, of Jesus? Well, you see, John hasn't recorded a second-by-second account of Jesus' life. He's not put a GoPro onto his chest and made a documentary. Oh, what's he having for breakfast? Cocoa Pops. Who would have thought Jesus would have Cocoa Pops? Lunch. Oh, ham and cheese toasty. Unbelievable. Oh, dinner. Sweet and sour chicken. Oh, that's what we had. Jesus having sweet and sour chicken. No, he's not going for a second-by-second account of Jesus' life. But instead, what he says is this. He says, these are written that you might believe. All the evidence you need to believe in Jesus is written in this book that is in your hands. Why? So that you and I, that me, Duncan, that you guys at the back, in the middle, right at the front, that you might believe, firstly, that Jesus is the Messiah, the promised one who God promised to send to save his people and to bring them into a relationship with God. Secondly, the Son of God, Jesus, God's own Son, who died on a cross to give us life. You see, in the Bible, many people dispute Jesus' identity. Some call him a fake. Some call him a prophet. Others, a teacher. Maybe in your class at school, people have their own opinions. But as John writes here, he speaks with absolute certainty. He says, Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God. And he says, look at the evidence for yourself. He says it's a massive claim with massive evidence. But you see, what a wonderful opportunity you have this week to explore this for yourself, to look into it. And as you do, I want you to ask this question. Is the evidence trustworthy? See, earlier, I claimed to be the fastest man in the world. My evidence completely unconvincing, not trustworthy at all. But you see, as we look at the evidence for Phelps and Williams, it's far from unconvincing. Hey, Michael Phelps in his prime, he swam 50 miles a week. He ate 12,000 calories. That's the equivalent of 21 Big Macs a day. And not only that, he jumps in the pool and he swims unbelievably quick. His times, they got verified, checked, verified again. Him and Serena, they were drugs tested on various occasions. They came through clean. You see, they are legitimately the most successful swimmer and single females tennis player ever. The evidence is trustworthy. And similarly, as John writes in these books, he acknowledges his claim is outrageous. But he says the evidence is trustworthy. In the same way you check Michael Phelps' times in the pool, he says check Jesus' times. Not his swimming in the pool, but his times here on earth. Check the evidence for yourself. John has seen it all happen. It's been checked. It's been verified. It's been checked again. And now you can see the evidence and believe it for yourself. And the implications of this are huge. Go on, open up again. Page 62. Look at the little 31 with me. That's what it says. These are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. Believe and live. We're sports people, aren't we? And here we are living in a culture that tells us you're successful, you're important, based on your achievements. See, it's about fulfilling our sporting dreams. Let's have a look at what this guy says, Johnny Wilkinson. Johnny Wilkinson was a Rugby World Cup winner with England. He slots a drop goal in extra time to beat Australia. And this is what he says. He says, to say I have played through 4 World Cups, 2 Lions Tours, 91 international games, and a ridiculous number of injuries and other setbacks gives me an incredibly special feeling of fulfillment. See, for many of us in this room, our dreams and our goals, maybe to play for our nation, to stand there, hand on chest, crowd, there as you're singing the national anthem. For others, it might be the Olympics, getting to walk on, waving the flag at the opening ceremony. 2 weeks later, stepping off the plane with a gold medal around your neck. Oh, how quality would that be? And what we're told by society, hey, that's a life well lived. Achieving your dreams. But look what Johnny Wilkinson goes on to say next. I know myself well enough to know that I will never truly be satisfied. See, here is one of the greatest rugby players of all time. He's achieved everything. He's won everything out there possible. And he says it's not enough. It will never satisfy. You see, despite what society says, life isn't found in our achievements. But instead, look what John says back in that book, page 62. He says this, and that by believing you may have life in his name. It's that life that we all desire, and it's only found in Jesus. And that life is real life. Truly satisfying, knowing you are deeply loved by a Father, regardless of how you perform on the pitch, regardless of your results in those exams. Knowing that death isn't the end, but that God promises eternal life for all who trust and believe in him. Wouldn't that be wonderful? In a year where death has been a reality for many of us, where it's been scary and challenging, Jesus says, don't fear, for you can have life, real life in him. Life that isn't dependent on what you achieve here on earth, on whether you get into uni, on whether you did well in your GCSEs, on whether you did well in your 11 pluses. Life that isn't dependent on you being captain of your team or scoring a hat trick in the final or even dropping a last-minute drop goal to win the World Cup. But life that has been given to you through what Jesus Christ has done and by believing in him as the Son of God. See, it's this relationship that we all desire and long for. That longing to be loved, not just here on earth, but forever. And it's a desire that only Christ can fully satisfy. For John is clear. Look what he says. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. He says, believe and live. You see, as we dive into the evidence this week, the question is, will you explore, will you trust the evidence that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God yourself? For some, this might seem like a foreign concept. It might be something you've never thought about in your life before. For others, perhaps you've heard of Jesus, but you're just totally unsure. Maybe others in this room, you believe in him, but you just have massive doubts that are hanging over your head, massive questions, and it just doesn't quite fit together. What do I say to you? Don't worry, that's okay. And it's quality you're in the room this week. Because we're going to look at those questions. We're going to look at who Jesus is for yourself. And what I want you to do this week is ask questions. Ask questions of your team leader. Ask questions of your coaches. Ask questions of those around you. But the one thing I say don't do is don't dismiss the claims of Jesus without looking at the evidence for yourself. And for those who are in this room saying you trust and believe in Jesus as the Son of God, as the Messiah, hey, fantastic. But here's my challenge for you this week. Believing in Jesus isn't just for 1 week of your life. When you gather in a room with loads of people from Sports Plus, when you've got your hockey stick, when you've got your rugby ball, when you can chant tunes as people are coming in the room, when you can play real or no real. And they say being a Christian should impact every area of our life. So here's my challenge. What does it look like for you to be a Christian at home, at school, in your sports club, with your mates? What does that look like? Wrestle with that this week. But for us all, what do I say? Hey, come and dive in. Let's dive in to God's Word this week, to the Bible. Let's enjoy the sport. Let's enjoy the banter that's going to be going on. And let's enjoy exploring the evidence of Jesus for ourselves. For here's the promise this week. Here's the promise. If you believe in Jesus, you will have life. Believe